Hello again, rail fans. My wife and I took a month-long road trip vacation back in September. Now, it was primarily to go see some friends out in Utah and Colorado. But I did manage to squeeze in a little bit of rail fanning along the way in Nebraska, Wyoming, and Utah out there. So let's take a look. I'll show you what I got, show you what I discovered, and why I cannot wait to get back out west.
We left Florida and went straight into Alabama. You know you're in the deep south when you see a Piggly Wiggly truck, one of the nation's oldest supermarket brands. We followed Piggly Wiggly into Selma, Alabama, where I remembered this was the site of a pivotal moment in the 1960s civil rights movement. I was just a little kid when it happened. The Edmund Pettus Bridge over the Alabama River. Civil rights marchers clashed with Alabama State Patrol officers. The incident became known as Bloody Sunday. The Edmund Pettus Bridge through Truss Arch is unmistakable and still in service. We went on through Mississippi, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and into Kansas. First stop in Kansas was on the Union Pacific Salina branch at Abilene, Kansas. The Union Pacific passenger station is still in service as the community foundation and visitor's office. I don't think there's any Class 1 railroad today that's still operating with its original name, except these guys. The Union Pacific Shield is still in use everywhere they go. I added Abilene to our itinerary because I'd heard about the town my whole life. This is where the famous Chisholm Trail from Texas ended. After the Civil War, many cattlemen from Texas drove their herds here because UP predecessor Kansas Pacific had a track here, this track, and was able to ship cows back east to Kansas City and Chicago. It was the only way those cattlemen could get their herds to market. There are markers all over Abilene commemorating the great Chisholm Trail cattle drives. One of the things I discovered here in Abilene was local rail fan Chris, who comes up here all the time, and he has been a wealth of information to me. Chris, how often do you get up here?
Most of the time during the mornings and afternoons during the rail fan season, and we usually come out. I usually come out here and see Union Pacific and BNSF trains. You can hear the horns miles and miles away from here. Abilene's a great place. You could just come out here and rail fan. You got a lot of traffic come out here, and sometimes on the BNSF line. So people out here should come out here and explore Abilene more often.
Now, we didn't see any UP trains in our short visit here, but I did manage to catch a BNSF grain train. The Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe built a track through here in 1887, just 3 blocks south of the Union Pacific, and it's still here as the BNSF. Their station remains in service as well as a BNSF crew office. This is typical of the unit trains out here. Solid grain cars, much like the ones we see coming to Florida, but there are lots more of them here. There are a lot of things named Eisenhower in Abilene. It was the boyhood home of Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of all Allied forces during World War II in Europe, and later he was President of the United States. The other notable in Abilene is the world's largest belt buckle, but I didn't break off to see it. The next day we were on the Union Pacific Transcontinental in Grand Island, Nebraska. This is Abraham Lincoln's railroad that literally connected the populated East with the untamed West. Grand Island is 149 miles west of Omaha, the beginning of the Union Pacific Transcontinental Railroad. Under the supervision of Grenville Dodge and his surveyors, this railroad was built by thousands of workers who did it all by hand, horse, and mule. Set up your camera at Oak Street Crossing in Grand Island, and you won't have to wait long to see something. This is a westbound intermodal train, mostly containers. Like other towns along the UP Transcon, a competitor is also here. On the overpass above, I believe, is the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, the Burlington route. Since they came after UP, they had to swing their route around to get into town as best they could, often crossing the UP at 90 degrees, like at this overpass. The Burlington route is now the B in BNSF. 40 miles west is the town of Kearney, Nebraska. Near the site of a U.S. Army fort built to protect settlers coming to the plains after the Civil War, everything changed when the Union Pacific came through here. The railroad, with its ability to transport troops rapidly, eliminated the need for Fort Kearney. But the town continued to grow. In 2025, Kearney is a sizable Nebraska business center, and in the 2 hours we spent here, there was plenty of action on the UP Transcon. A merchandise freight pounding westward comes into town. Only the crossing signals announce its arrival. Like so many other places out here, Kearney is a no-horn quiet zone. Even before the mixed freight gets through town, an eastbound appears. Those green arrows on signposts are permanent resume speed signs. The X's below them notify the crew they're approaching a grade crossing. The QZ sign indicates a no-horn quiet zone. The eastbound is a rail train bringing company iron to somewhere on the system. One day later, we land in North Platte, Nebraska. This is a must-see for even the most casual rail fan traveling through Nebraska. Union Pacific's Golden Spike Tower at Bailey Yard. This is what a railroad exhibit should be. Like any decent attraction, a large gift shop greets you at the door. But there's also information at every turn. Even the restrooms here are more than just places where you pee. Inside, you can see railroad memorabilia and artifacts. Even in their massive stairwell, there's safety information on every landing.
Because we visited on the anniversary of 9/11, the climb up the flights of stairs gets you a free entry. Not bad.
It was an 8-story climb, so next time I'll spend the $10 and take the elevator. At the top, even more displays telling the story of railroading and the Union Pacific. At first, you are greeted by a massive Nebraska cornfield, and adjacent to that field, a panoramic view of the largest railroad classification yard on the planet, UP's Bailey Yard at North Platte. From the top of the Golden Spike Tower, or the open-air deck 1 floor below, you can watch virtually the whole train yard in action. 10,000 cars in and out every day on 18 receiving and 16 departure tracks. 3,800 cars ride the east and west hump tracks, rolling gently down into 166 bowl tracks, where they become outbound trains going east, west, north, or south. The hump towers can each classify 4 cars a minute. In all, 139 trains a day through here. The Fueling and Service Center handles more than 9,000 of UP's Armor Yellow locomotives each month. Fueling operations take 20 million gallons of diesel every 30 days. When you visit, be sure to bring some binoculars or a hefty zoom lens on your camera. The tower is a little ways back from the action. What Stephen Ambrose said in his book about the Transcontinental Railroad project applies here as well. There's nothing like it in the world. That afternoon, we were on the road again, still westbound on the UP main line, paralleling it on Interstate 80. The next morning, we were in downtown Cheyenne, Wyoming, where the plains meet the mountains. Much of the old downtown is on the National Register of Historic Places, including the famous Wrangler Western Wear store and the old Cheyenne Union Pacific Passenger Depot, now a railroad museum. Cheyenne respects its cowboy heritage and pays tribute to it everywhere. When they built an overpass to get the interstate highway across the Union Pacific yard below, the yard tower remained where it was, with a big UP shield prominently facing traffic. I admire Union Pacific's attitude of putting its name out there for everyone to see. I wish all railroads did this. Cheyenne is also the capital of Wyoming, with a beautiful Capitol complex just north of the downtown. Cheyenne is also home to the Union Pacific Steam Shop and their gargantuan engine, the 4014 Big Boy. But we won't see that today. I found that in Cheyenne, like in several other Union Pacific cities, it's not that easy to access the tracks, as they pretty much fence it off. But I did manage to find one break in the fence in downtown Cheyenne. As luck would have it, I got here not too long ahead of an inbound unit train headed east. He was apparently stopping at Cheyenne for a crew change. One thing you see out here through Nebraska, Wyoming, Texas, and Oklahoma is wind turbines. The wind blows all the time out here, so the use of wind turbines to make electricity makes sense. Whatever was in those hopper cars must have been really heavy, because it took him a while to get this train stopped. You can hear the brakes squeal, trying really hard to get it stopped, but kinetic energy wasn't given up without a fight. A 140 miles farther west on the UP Main and Interstate 80 is Rawlins, Wyoming. This is where General Dodge and his survey team, after running out of drinking water, discovered a spring. A thirsty General John Rawlins, one of Dodge's team, remarked that he hoped if anything was ever named for him, he hoped it would be a spring of water. And so it is today. Rawlins primarily caters to the thirst of UP diesel locomotives. This westbound stack train has just finished fueling and is again on the move. At 6,747 feet in elevation, Rawlins is about as high up as I've ever been when there wasn't an airplane involved, though we would break that record later on when we got to Colorado and Utah. We overnighted in Rawlins and were back at the tracks the next morning. This is a crossing 2 miles west of the downtown fueling depot. When we got here, a UP welding crew was here and working on a switch frog repair. At first, it looks like any other railroad, until your eye catches little indicators like this that tell you, "Mister, you're on the big railroad now." The welders kept working until they got the word that an eastbounder was in the vicinity. Permission all happens digitally. The train crew makes a request on their screen, the employee in charge on the ground gets an alert on his tablet or phone, hits yes or no, and the train comes on accordingly. In about a minute and a half, the train is here, blowing the horn to make sure the employees on the ground know he's here. Four engines in the lead, then 4 auto racks, and then double-stacked well cars bound for somewhere east of here. On the bottom are piggyback trailers riding the Union Pacific instead of Interstate 80. While the welders go back to work, another eastbound creeps up, but I learn over the radio that he's gone in emergency coming down the hill. The conductor is walking back from the head end to find the problem.
I take you in emergency. Come back over.
No, sir, it has not. Over.
All right, conductor walking over.
Yes, sir, he is. Over.
Okay, I'll stand by here. Let me know what you find. Over.
Will do. Yeah, and we got TCI Spencer on his way to help out. Over.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
While that conductor walks his train, a westbounder pulls up out of Rawlins fueling tracks and stops short of the crossovers here. He's on track 2, the same track that the stuck 6854 is on. The dispatcher will have to make a decision in a few minutes. If they don't soon locate and fix the problem with the eastbounder, the dispatcher will have to cross the westbound over to track 1 and get him on his way. When you wait by the track, you notice things that you'd normally overlook. Like this. It's a cattle guard, a device that keeps cattle inside a fenced area without the need for a gate so that vehicles can travel the road or driveway freely. The rails over a hole in the ground create a visual that cows usually won't try to cross. The farther west you go, the more of these you see. Here in Wyoming, they're all over. I've seen cattle guards before in Florida, but they're not that easy to find these days. In a few minutes, a shop truck arrives. A train crew apparently put in a request for one via their digital capability in the cab. Even though the conductor hasn't yet located the trouble, the shop truck will help speed that along. More help arrives from the west, another eastbound stack train. He's done a rolling inspection and reported a separation back in the train. Apparently something more than just a broken knuckle. Train 7814 East looks like a typical UP intermodal with 4 engines up front and then a long line of double-stacked containers. The railroad surveyors of the Union Pacific certainly had a gift. Their route was closely paralleled by the builders of Interstate 80 through Nebraska, Wyoming, and Utah almost a century later. At Rawlins, the two roads are in plain view of one another. So now the dispatcher makes a quick decision to cross over the 7871 West and get him going. The welders have now cleared the track, and the big stack train with 4 locomotives pulling heads west. It's a bit of a drive off the main highway, but if you're a fan of railroad history, you really should see the Golden Spike National Historical Park at Promontory Summit, Utah. The miles of wilderness you drive through gives you the feel of what those construction crews faced in getting this nation-changing railroad built. The National Park Service has done a remarkable job of preserving the site, resurrecting the artifacts and telling the story of these last miles of the Transcontinental Railroad. And right here, at this very spot, according to the legend, is where the two lines came together. Operating replicas of the 2 locomotives that were there the day that the 2 railroads joined together. Union Pacific's number 119 and the Central Pacific's Jupiter are steamed up every day for visitors to see. Staff members are ready to answer any and all questions about the engines. At 4 p.m. each day, the first locomotive is backed out to the switch as it's prepared to be put away for the night, but not before it does one last run-by for the fans. Inside the building is a gift shop filled with books, toys, and Golden Spike souvenirs and tchotchkes. And in the back, a real rail museum with artifacts from the era and explanations of their purposes. On my way out, I noticed this giant obelisk in the front courtyard of the Visitor Center. Placed by the track in 1916 by Central Pacific descendant Southern Pacific, the monument stood for decades near the Golden Spike ceremony location. It was deteriorating from the elements and vandals when it was finally rescued, restored, and relocated to this new spot in 2001. The Southern Pacific Monument is the first thing you see when you visit the Golden Spike Park. A side excursion to see some old friends took us into downtown Denver, Colorado, where we stopped at Union Station, an old railroad depot that's been thoroughly modernized into a real 21st century rail terminal. Go down the escalator and under the tracks, and you're inside a facility that looks more like an airport terminal than a railroad station. All in one location, you have Amtrak and regional commuter lines. Inside the terminal building, there's a hotel, a florist, coffee stand, and seating area that's welcoming and comfortable. Not a place that resembles the waiting room at a license tag office. There's also a couple of good restaurants, and that's where we had a late breakfast. I had Eggs Benedict with hollandaise sauce. Liz had a scrambled egg and vegetable burrito. Mine was fabulous. I ate it all.
Now, before you jump on your keyboards with, you should have gone here, you should have gone there, you should have done this, you should have seen that. I know I missed a whole lot of stuff on my trip out there. We just didn't have the time to go all these different places. But if you'll write those suggestions in the comments down below, I'm going to make a list and hopefully get to some of those places the next time we go out there, which will not be long, I hope. Now, first, I would like to say thank you to Brian Milland of Pocatello, Idaho. He sent me some stuff a few months back on the region in Utah. The materials you sent, Brian, were invaluable. They really helped a lot. Much appreciated. So thank you, Brian. And thanks to every one of you who has liked and subscribed to the channel over the years. That has helped so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Now, please write your comments in the comment section down below. Like I said, write in everything you think I ought to see out there, and when we do go back, put in your ideas for don't miss this. So that will help me make my list. Share this video with your friends if you liked it, which I hope you did. Hit that like button if you did that. All that really helps out the channel. And let's make plans to meet up again somewhere out there on the high iron sometime soon. Until then, this is Danny Harmon.